We've got huge MCU news today as it is being reported by Deadline that Kang the Conqueror will be joining the cast of Ant-Man 3 alongside Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly. Today we're going to break down exactly who Kang the Conqueror is, everything you need to know, and what his impact could potentially be on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let's get to it. Hey guys, Cam here with Popcorn for Breakfast, and as you just heard in the open, we've got big time Marvel news today coming from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as it is being reported by Deadline that Jonathan Majors has been cast to play Kang the Conqueror, and that his character will first appear in Ant-Man 3. Now, Jonathan Majors, for those of you who are not familiar, is an up-and-coming actor, someone with immense acting ability and talent. So this is obviously a huge get for Marvel Studios. And if you haven't seen him in anything, he's actually recently been in Spike Lee's Da 5 Bloods, which is available on Netflix. And he is also in the current run of Lovecraft Country on HBO, which airs on Sunday nights. Now, the first thing we need to get into about this character is exactly who Kang the Conqueror is before we can dive into what this really means for the MCU. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the comics, Kang the Conqueror is one of the most significant Marvel villains. He's first featured really as a Fantastic Four villain, and basically who he is and what his abilities are is that he doesn't have any superhuman abilities. He's extremely intelligent, has a vast knowledge of many things, and he's also from the future, from like the 31st century. So between his knowledge of history and physics and things of that nature, paired with his future technology, he's really able to create any capability he needs to. Most notably, time travel technology, very similar to Dr. Doom. And so he leverages that knowledge to sort of bounce around time and to take advantage of the era that he finds himself in. At one point, he even is Pharaoh in Egypt for a while before he is thwarted by the Fantastic Four. Another interesting thing about Kang the Conqueror is that there is this sort of ambiguous genealogy between him and Reed Richards, who is Mr. Fantastic, the head of the Fantastic Four. And so since he is born in the future, in like the 31st century, it's largely believed that he is a descendant of Reed Richards. But because time travel is a crazy thing, there's also some considerations that he might be Reed Richards' father. His name, after all, is Nathaniel Richards, which is the same name we know as the father of Reed Richards. At one point, Reed Richards' father is gathered by a future version of Kang called Immortus, along with all the other Nathaniel Richards, to sort of duke it out for superiority. And so there is this sort of like gray, blurry line between what Kang's relation to Reed Richards actually is, but we know that there is some sort of link. So now let's get into what this could really mean for the MCU. So the first one is the most obvious one that I just mentioned. We know the Fantastic Four are coming, and the reason we know that is because the Fantastic Four are a massive Marvel property that were previously owned in the Fox arm of Marvel. But now with the merger of Fox, the Fantastic Four are back under the Marvel Studios and Disney umbrella, where they can actually have full license to use these characters. So the most obvious assumption to make here is that Kang will be used to introduce the Fantastic Four. Will that be in Ant-Man 3? It's hard to know. But Marvel does have a history of introducing characters to each other in sort of a passing way in certain movies. We don't even know that Kang the Conqueror is going to be the big bad in this Ant-Man movie, but we know that he will be present, and that is enough to start speculating exactly what his presence could mean. So the second big thing, in addition to almost certainly bringing about the Fantastic Four at some point, is just that Kang's scope as a villain is enormous. I mean, people have been wondering ever since Thanos, who is going to be that next big bad? Well, Kang fits the bill. He checks every single box. And I'm sure lots of people are wondering about Dr. Doom, if the Fantastic Four are coming around, or potentially Galactus. These are names that people have been throwing out. But for right now, the only villain that we have confirmed as a big bad is Kang the Conqueror. So my money is on him to play a huge role in the MCU phases 4, 5, and beyond, and potentially lead to that large MCU event similar to Infinity War and Endgame. Now, there are some other interesting things that Kang could bring to the MCU. One thing that I think a lot of people will probably start to speculate here soon is the appearance of the Young Avengers. Now, I did a video a few weeks back about Florence Pugh's entrance into the into the Black Widow series and what that could mean. And one of the things that I theorized there was that she could lead to the appearance of the Young Avengers, because we know that we have other Young Avengers that have already been confirmed and that are getting upcoming projects. For example, Cassie Lang, who is Scott Lang, Ant-Man's daughter, appeared in all of the Ant-Man movies and appeared in an older form in Avengers Endgame after the blip, because she did not blip, and so she's actually 5 years older and perhaps of age to begin her crime-fighting career. We also know that the new Hawkeye series starring Jeremy Renner will feature Kate Bishop, who is a member of the Young Avengers, and so it's really starting to look like that team could be coming together. And where Kang plays into that is that Iron Lad, who is a member of the Avengers, is actually a version of Kang the Conqueror. When Kang goes back in time to sort of change the history of himself, he ends up taking the villainous ways out of himself and leaving behind a hero who turns into Iron Lad and who joins the Young Avengers. We know for a fact that Marvel has already dipped their toes into the time travel water. So could this be another opportunity to do that? Could Kang go back in time, create Iron Lad, and then, I don't know, maybe fight against Iron Lad? Could there be different versions of Kang involved? All options are certainly on the table, but I would bet with a pretty high degree of certainty that three things are going to happen. One, we're going to get the Fantastic Four in some capacity sooner rather than later. Two, that Kang will be a significant villain, maybe even the big bad Thanos-level bad guy that we've been wondering about. And that three, this does signify the entrance of the Young Avengers into the MCU, and we'll start putting the puzzle pieces together as to how these TV shows and the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies really come together to make a cohesive story and timeline. So if you are a Marvel fan, you should be very excited about this hire. You should be very excited about the fact that they got Jonathan Majors. Another interesting thing about Jonathan Majors is that he is a person of color, and we know that Marvel has a commitment to diversity that they've been very vocal about, and this could mean that if he really is a descendant or father or what have you to Reed Richards, that we could get a person of color as Reed Richards leading the Fantastic Four, which would be something that we have not yet seen in the comics to my knowledge based on what I've read, and would certainly open up all kinds of interesting casting possibilities moving forward and some really exciting opportunities for the MCU. So, very exciting news. If you're a Marvel fan or if you just have questions, drop us a comment. Let us know what you think about this casting. Let us know what you think about Kang the Conqueror, and for sure what your speculation is as to what his role might be in the MCU. And we will be following this story for you closely on Popcorn for Breakfast. You can catch all of our videos and podcasts on our website, popcorn4breakfast.com. And of course, please like and subscribe to our channel for more updates and news about the MCU and beyond. Thanks for watching.